The Waymark Gear Company Lite 50L pack, why I bought it, what I like about it, and some concerns that I have. Hey everyone, my trail name is Ghost Mule and welcome back to my channel, Everyday Backpacker. So for the upcoming 2023 backpacking season, I've made some pretty big changes when it comes to my gear that I'm using. And one of the biggest gear changes I've made this year is my pack itself. Now for the last 5 years, longer than I've had this channel operating, which is going on 4 years, I've used my tried and true Osprey Exos 58L pack. Now this pack has been an absolutely great travel companion throughout these 5 years, and there's really not that much wrong with it, but I just kind of felt like there were some things that could use a little bit of changing. And so, just like when I decided to change my tent, I listed out some criteria that I wanted my new pack to meet. The first of these criteria was I wanted something a little bit smaller. Now this is really surprising to me because when I first started out backpacking, if you had anything less than a 70L pack, you were doing something wrong and you weren't going to make it. However, as the years have gone on, and as my gear choices have gotten slightly better over the time, I've been able to pare that size down considerably. And so when I purchased my Exos 58, which, because I have an extra large torso, is actually a 62L pack, it was already a big jump down in size. And frankly, I filled it up pretty readily. But over the last 5 years, I've been able to get my gear even smaller, which is kind of a minor miracle if you know me well. And so I found that I had lots of extra space in my pack for most of my shorter trips. And so I thought it might be wise to maybe get a little bit smaller again. My second criteria is that I wanted something that was super simple in construction. Working in the outdoor industry, I see a lot of new packs come and go, and all of them have all of these really neat features that seem really great on paper, but in reality hardly ever get used and really only add weight to the pack. And that was one of the things that interested me in the Exos. The Exos is very simple, although it does have a springboard frame. It doesn't have a lot of gimmicky pieces to it. It only has 2 zippers. And zippers are great for ease of opening, however, they're also one of the things that fails really easily, so I was looking for something that had even less than what my already simple Exos did. My third criteria seems a little bit like an oxymoron, but I wanted something that was both light and durable. Now again, the Exos 58 was very light, coming in at around 2.75 pounds. And it's generally pretty durable. So all in all, it has been a pretty great pack. And so my goal in this new pack was to find something that was at least slightly lighter than the existing pack without sacrificing a lot of durability. I've seen some packs that are incredibly lighter than my Exos, but the fabric on it seems so flimsy that I definitely had my doubts. And lastly, I wanted something with a more custom fit. One of my biggest disappointments in current gear that I see is that a lot of the big manufacturers are going more for a streamlined manufacturing process. The way they achieve this is to limit the amount of sizes that they offer packs in. For the last several years, I've been a very die-hard fan of Osprey packs. But unfortunately, they've come out with lines that instead of having 4 different sizes, now only have 2 sizes. And this is great for average size people, but plus size people like myself or really small people have a really hard time fitting into these packs, and that's really unfortunate. But cottage brand packs are still offered mostly in a 4 torso size setup, as well as being able to switch out different size hip belts and in some cases shoulder straps to help customize that fit and get a better fit overall than some of the large competitors can. And so, with all of those criteria in mind, I was able to narrow it down to the pack of choice that I went with. And that pack is the Waymark Gear Company Lite 50L pack. So how did I make the decision to go with this pack? So when I first started narrowing down into this pack, one of my really good friends asked me why I would go with this particular pack because it didn't really have any outstanding innovations. For me, that wasn't really a negative, and here's why. As someone who has worked in the industry for a while, I've seen a lot of packs come out and they're always seemingly trying to outdo the other guy by creating some sort of niche innovation or feature that some people think that they just absolutely have to have. And because of this hyper focus on innovation, I think a lot of these companies have kind of lost sight of the things that make packs work in the first place. Those are the simple features that allow us to comfortably carry gear into the backcountry so that we can enjoy those trips. And frankly, it was that simplicity and clean line appearance that actually attracted me to the Waymark pack in the first place. Didn't have a lot of extra stuff to it, it just simply had what it needed to get the job done. Now, of course, in the day and age of information overload, I didn't just decide by myself to go with this pack. In fact, I looked at a lot of other reviews, and several of them from some people that I really know well and trust in their field experience who have also used this pack. And in addition to those reviews, I just really like the company as a whole. The company is based in near Salt Lake City, Utah. Everything's made here in the United States to order. And they just have a really good philosophy, and I have the pleasure of knowing the general manager, Devin, and I think that he represents the company very well. And so those were things that were definitely interesting to me. And lastly, although it does pain me to say it, I'm just kind of dissatisfied with some of the product that my go-to company, Osprey's, been coming out with. Ever since the company was sold, it just hasn't been putting out the same quality. And I'm sure it works really great for average size customers, but I'm not average sized. I'm definitely a plus sized hiker, and frankly, those packs just weren't fitting me as well anymore. And so in November, I placed the order, and it finally arrived in January. And so I thought I would do a quick review of my out-of-the-box observations of this pack. First, let's look at some numbers. The Waymark Lite is a 50-liter pack. However, I have the extra large torso, so it's actually closer to 53 liters. The pack retails at $270. In the large extra large frame size, the pack is 36 inches tall by 11 inches wide and 7.2 inches deep. The main compartment is 42.8 liters, with the exterior pocket volume being 10.2 liters, for a total combined volume of 53 liters. For me, once I received the pack, I did weigh it using my hanging scale, and it came in at 2.51 pounds. The Waymark Lite is a framed pack made from recycled EPX 200 EcoPack fabric. The frame is made up of two pre-formed aluminum stays with a lumbar padded hip belt for added comfort. The pack comes fully featured and it consists of one large main compartment with a roll top lid complete with an over-the-top Y compression strap. On the outside of the pack, there are two elastic side compartments perfect for water bottles and one extremely large mesh ventilated pouch on the outside, which is perfect for carrying quick access items such as rain gear, camp shoes, or your poop kit. Now, when I ordered my pack, I had the option of ordering it with some additional pockets, so I went ahead and ordered a shoulder strap pocket for mine pack. And then when it arrived, Devin, because he's awesome, had apparently also thrown in a hip pocket. So I have those two added as well, and I'm pretty grateful for that, so thanks a lot. And so that's a basic rundown of all of the features, although I did leave some of them out. Some of them I will address here in future comments, but in general, if you want to learn about all the different features of the pack, I definitely recommend checking it out on their website. So right out of the box, the first thing I notice is this pack is really cleanly made. One thing that I definitely didn't do before I worked in the industry that I definitely do now is I focus in on how well the object is made and things like what the stitching looks like and things like that. And let me tell you, the construction on this pack is beautiful. All the seams look perfect, and I'm really blown away by the attention to detail in the pack. Little things like may or may not even be intentional, but I noticed that the internal lining of the pack is a lighter color than the outside, which makes it really easy to look into the pack and see what's inside there to find items that may be hiding in the bottom. Also, the fact that the shoulder straps are held in place by a narrower piece of webbing that actually allows the pack straps to articulate better along with the movement of your shoulders, as well as the extra spacing put between the lumbar and the hip pocket pads, so that when those wrap around your body, the padding doesn't bunch up and create pinch points on the lower back while you're wearing the pack. And overall, I just really like the way the pack has a nice, sleek, clean look. There aren't a bunch of extra straps all over the place. It just looks like a nice pack. And lastly, a couple other details that really stuck out to me was the fact that they actually put two smaller loops for trekking poles and one axe loop that's larger. Most manufacturers just put one or two axe loops on there, and you're left trying to get your trekking poles to fit into that one single loop. Here, you don't have to worry about it because you have two smaller loops, and it's going to keep those trekking poles in place a lot better. Another really cool feature and attention to detail is the compression Y-strap on the top itself. It's adjustable not only in the connector strap, but also back along one of the continuous Y strap. And this mount allows for a really good tight fit if you don't have anything on top. But then you can also expand it out to hold things all the way up to the sizes of a BVM 500 bare vault, or most likely in my case, my obnoxiously bright yellow Big Agnes camp chair. One of the first things that I do when I get a new pack is also something that I recommend all of my customers do when they get a new pack, and that is to actually take it home, load it up with all of the gear that you normally would carry with you, and then take it out for a walk. Because in the store, when you're using the weights to try to get a feel for it, that gives you a good general idea of how the pack's going to fit. But a true test is going to be an actual true field test, how that pack is going to work with all of your gear and how it's going to feel in an actual walking situation. Now, when you're loading up the pack, this should also include food, water, and fuel, just like you would take normally on a trip. So when I finally was done loading my pack up, it weighed about 24 pounds. And this is well below the maximum suggested carrying capacity of the pack, which is 35 pounds. And so with this pack, especially being that it's a slightly smaller pack, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure it was going to hold all of my stuff. So I went ahead and packed it up, and I was really impressed with how everything fit in there. And I also made a few other observations while I was packing the pack. For instance, it's not just a blob with a frame, it's a very well constructed, thought out pack layout. So it has squared off corners, and generally allows for a maximum size internally comparatively to its relatively small size. And so once I got the pack filled up, I took it out for a walk around my neighborhood in a local park. And the first thing I noticed is this pack fits really, really well. For being so simple, it just really felt great. The majority of the weight was on my hips, not on my shoulders, and the pack really moved well with me as I went through. I dare say it's one of the most comfortable packs I've ever tried on. And with the layout of this pack, one of the things I really liked about it is it's relatively narrow to how tall it is. And so most packs generally are narrower than my shoulders, but as they get a little bit bigger, one of the hard things to deal with is how it gets stuck on everything. With this pack, it's considerably smaller than my shoulder width. And so moving through trees and brush are going to be very easy because the pack is going to actually be narrower than my body. Now, another thing I always try out on these pack hikes to try out a new pack is how easy I can get access to my water bottles. I hate packs that you can't get to easy water access. This pack, however, has really easy to access water bottles, as well as putting them back is really easy. And lastly, I really love that oversized large mesh pocket on the front. It's big enough that I can put my Crocs in there as well as my poo kit and still have room for things like a wet rain jacket or something like that. I think that's going to definitely come in handy on future trips. So all in all, this pack has a lot of positives and I'm really excited to try it out. But no piece of gear is perfect, and I do have a few concerns with this pack as well. My first concern is that this pack's back panel has absolutely no ventilation to it. It just all sits right up against your back, and I'm a little concerned that might get hot over time. The pack that I used to use, the Exos, had a springboard design with a very ventilated mesh back panel. So I'm curious to see how that's going to affect it in the long run, and whether I'm going to be okay with it being all the way up against my back like that. Secondly, as I said before, I am still a little concerned with the size of the pack because it is quite a bit smaller. Even though that was one of my criteria, it's always a little bit tough to scale down in size. You're always a little bit anxious to see whether everything's going to fit. That said, I have everything packed in there pretty well right now, and I do have some space left over. And that includes a BVM 400 bare vault, which has all of my food in it right now. So I'm actually pretty impressed so far how much it's able to hold. But of course, I won't really know until I get out and do a real world test because I am almost positive I forgot to put some stuff in there. And lastly, although this is not a design issue or anything like that, it's really just a Kalman neurosis issue. But it's going to take a little while for me to get used to a pack without a brain compartment on it. I'm a child of the 90s and I grew up backpacking in the 90s and I've always had that brain compartment with my quick access stuff. So yeah, I think it's just going to take a little bit of getting used to. But that's not Waymark Gear Company's fault, nor is it the pack's fault. And so there you have it. That's my first look at the new to me Waymark Gear Lite 50 liter pack, or 53 liter pack if you're really tall like I am. I really can't tell you just how excited I am to try this pack out. I am really itching to get out there on a trail to be able to see how it goes, and I am definitely going to do a follow-up at the end of the season to say how well it worked for me, if I had any other issues that I didn't talk about, or if the issues I had ended up not being issues at all. I guess we'll have to wait and see. If you have any questions or other things that you would like to know about the pack, leave those in the comments below. And as always, keep hiking on.